As the GOP field fights it out for the Republican nomination, on the Democratic side of the aisle, party leaders have stayed firmly behind President Joe Biden, even as voters have expressed concerns about a Biden 2024 run and the prospects of a Biden-Trump rematch. For more on the contest, let's bring in Democratic National Committee Chair Jaime Harrison. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
A recent analysis found a big drop in support for President Biden among minority voters. It showed that Biden leads Trump by just 53 to 28% among registered non-white voters in a New York Times Siena polls in the past year. Biden won 70% of those same voters in 2020. So what can your party do to revitalize that key base of support?
Well, listen, I've been going all across the country, Linsey, and I can tell you that people are very excited about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And this is the thing with polls at this point in time. You know, Joe Biden's been underestimated his entire career. And the one thing we know is when you underestimate Joe Biden, he proves you wrong time and time again. We are seeing the most important poll, which is at the elections, at the ballot box, where Democrats are overperforming our partisan lean by 11 points. Just last night, we flipped in New Hampshire a seat that was Republican that Donald Trump won by 6. The Democrat won by 12. We won in important elections in Jacksonville, in Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And so Democrats are overperforming, and that is because they got something to run on. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Democrats have been delivering for the American people. When we put our case out there, when we make our case to the American people, we win time and time again. And I believe that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will win again in 2024.
While polls are flawed, they often can be, in some scenarios, indicators for the future. And so I do want to point to a CNN poll earlier this month that found that 67% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning voters said that the party should not nominate President Biden to a second term. 49% of those voters cited Biden's age as their biggest concern on him running again. Given that concern, should Democratic voters get to see a competitive primary process for the nomination?
Well, again, in terms of the polls, I can point to polls in 2022 that said that there was going to be this big red wave. But what we had was a bunch of red tears from Ronna McDaniel and the Republicans. It never materialized because in the end of the day, people go to the polls to vote for somebody who will deliver for them. And there hasn't been a president that has delivered as much for the American people as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And so I believe that folks will see the record. They will see how this president gets up every day to work for them, and will vote for them once again. As it relates to the primary, listen, we are following the tradition. Never have we had a debate during when we've had an incumbent president, and on either side, Democrat or Republican. And so we're not starting in 2024 under my tenure as DNC chair.
So are you comfortable with critics potentially saying that you're anointing President Biden despite members of the party asking for a contest?
Well, I'm comfortable with staying with the precedent that both parties have had when you have an incumbent president. And in the end of the day, this is about delivering for the American people. Joe Biden has delivered from the American Rescue Plan to the infrastructure bill, to making sure that our judiciary looks like the rest of the country, to even when Republicans stand in the way on things like student loans or when they stood in the way for the George Floyd Policing Act, Joe Biden has taken executive action to deliver for the American people. And he said that the job is not done, that he, Kamala Harris, and Democrats in the House and the Senate still have more work to do. And we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that they get that opportunity to do that work and finish the job.
And I do understand that there is a precedent here, and you're relying on that. But one thing that we have not seen also is a president this age. President Biden will be 82 at the start of a new term. And I do want to point to something that a longtime Democratic strategist James Carville recently said about that. He said that the voters don't want this, and that's in poll after poll after poll. You can't look at that and not feel some apprehension here. And so just want to put it to you one more way. How can you justify having zero competition for the Democratic nomination when your own party's voters are raising concerns? And this, I know that you're going to say the polls, you dispute maybe or disagree with the polls, but this particular question, though, Jaime, is about his age, him being 82. And would you at least say that people do have it's fair for people to be concerned about him being 82?
Well, I think the president has addressed the age thing. I was just with him recently in New York, and he addressed it. And he said, in the end of the day, it's about getting things done. When we think about, that's why people go to the polls to vote. What president has gotten as much done for the American people as Joe Biden? And his wisdom that comes along with that age is part of the package that folks have gotten. This president, for the first time since I've been alive, we've been talking about allowing Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs. Well, guess what? This president got it done. For 4 years, Donald Trump talked about infrastructure week, never filled a pothole. But guess what? This president got it done in a very split Congress. And I can go on and on about how he has transformed and improved this nation because he has the wisdom and the judgment to navigate Washington, D.C. to get it done. You know, I leave you with this. Jim Clyburn once, I was complaining to him about the age of politicians, and he said to me, he said, Jamie, what would you prefer, an old Thurgood Marshall or a young Clarence Thomas? And I said, enough said, Congressman, because it's about your perspective. It's about what you will fight for. And I know that Joe Biden's going to fight for the American people because that's what he's been doing every single day in the White House.
Fair enough. Last question for you. Let me ask you about Hunter Biden. I understand that he's not on the ballot, but are you concerned at all that his case and House efforts on impeaching Biden could be a distraction for your party and for the president during what's sure to be a competitive general election?
Well, again, yeah, Jim Clyburn put it so clearly. Are we going to impeach a president for being a good father, for standing up for your child? I have 2 boys that I love all so dearly. And sometimes they do things good, sometimes they don't do things so good. But I will always stand with my sons because I love them as a father. Joe Biden loves his son as a father, and he's going to stick with him. That's what we all do as parents. We try our very best to do our very best for our kids. Sometimes they will fall down, sometimes they will pick themselves up. But Joe Biden is just like all of us. We're going to always be with our kids.
All right, fair enough. DNC Chair Jaime Harrison, really appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks so much for making the time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.